welcome to all of you. I'm so excited to have this conversation, especially just after we've heard from the Prime Minister and some of the things that she's doing to really stimulate Japan's economy. So we're talking a little bit about that. We're going to be talking about how we can create more partnerships to really enable investment and into each other's economies. So let's start with you, Your Royal Highness. Let's talk about PIF. It's an incredible sovereign wealth fund. It's a global investor. How does it view Asia and its markets, which, of course, we've heard have been booming and doing incredibly well, as the Prime Minister just said? What opportunities, as well, does PIF see, as well as Saudi Arabia see? What kind of opportunities exist there for Asian investors?
Let me first start by saying, Minisama konnichiwa. It is a pleasure to be with you here today and also with the esteemed panelists. So as a long-term sovereign investor, PIF view Asia as central to its long-term investment strategy. This market is home to global leading infrastructure capabilities and industrial capabilities as well and innovation. If we look at the key sectors from advanced manufacturing to mobility to technology and also the depth of the financial market in Asia, all of these are very much aligned with the PIF priority sectors. PIF today is a global sovereign wealth fund. It's one of the leading sovereign wealth funds globally, and it's rapidly growing as well. If you look at the AUM of PIF, actually grew from 150 billion in 2015, 2016 to over 900 billion as we speak. Part of that growth actually come through the organic, I would say, growth, but also part of it is through the investments that we're making in Asia as well. So if I take Japan as a very key example in Asia, PIF invested around $11 billion in Japan. And also through that investment, we also look at the GDP contribution as well to the Japanese market, also to employment as well. We've also been creating a lot of partnerships as well with Japanese leading financial institutions. So all of this is definitely shows our interest in the Asian market.
Yeah, wow, that's extraordinary. $11 billion invested into Japan alone. We're going to hear a little bit more about some of those partnerships that you talked about, but let me go to the rest of the panel. We have these esteemed panelists here, gentlemen who know Japan very, very well. Your Prime Minister obviously has given us some great insights into what's happening next to try to stimulate the economy here. But we know that Japan continues to see fairly stagnant growth. The markets have been doing incredibly well, as we keep hearing. The Nikkei 225 has been doing well. As well, inflation is slightly out of the Bank of Japan's comfort zone, so there's lots of issues there. And of course, we'll be talking about how M&A activity really is booming, so much is happening there. Talk us through what you're seeing happening in this quite complex environment. What do you see in terms of managing and negotiating this environment, and particularly what you're advising many of your clients? So let's start with you, Imatsu-san.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to start by thanking Her Royal Highness for encouraging comments for Japan economy and more beyond Japan to Asia. So that's very much inspiring and encouraging all of us. In Japan, I'd like to say Prime Minister has described in her plan, but up until now, it's much more like nominal economy growth. She has been, and also former prime ministers, all focusing on. But going forward, as she has described, much more supply side of the issues going to be addressed through growth plan. So currently, Japan is really facing supply side of the issues that is constraining potential growth from going up. So as you said, a little bit slower growth in real term, that's coming from shortage of labor, shortage of energy, and all the other stuff. So in this way, her supplementary budget or even more growth strategy is really going to address or the supply issue in addition to demand stimulation. So through those investments by the government, it is essentially increasing private sector investment into those areas, including AI, semiconductors, energy, and all the other stuff she has really listed up. So through those, obviously our clients or even ourselves too, we should find great opportunities in those sectors through M&A or even private equities. Our colleagues here is going to discuss, but it's quite interesting treasures just ahead of us. So in this way, Abenomics 1.0, and then now Takaichi-san's policy, people talking about that's similar to Abenomics, which is essentially deflating the economy with high pressure. But that's a little bit different because she's going to address much more growth side of things by addressing supply side of the issues. So in this way, I'm more than encouraged and thrilled about the opportunity set going ahead.
Fantastic. So very encouraged, and that's good to know because it is an incredibly uncertain time economically around the world. So Rinoue-san, tell us a little bit about what you're seeing as well with your clients. How are you helping them navigate this time?
Okay. First of all, let me thank you for inviting me to such a high-profile event. I'm very honored to be here. What I tell my clients is very simple. I've been in this industry over 40 years now. Don't guess my age, but
you still look young.
I've seen the bubble days in the late early 80s to 90, and when Japan was really booming. From there, basically, we were asleep for over 30 years. And now we started to wake up in like the past 3-4 years with the corporate governance code and of course the government's effort. And what happened is more like we just woke up and we're having a morning coffee. And then corporate's mentality, the mindset started to change. And with help of these private equity funds and very aggressive activists, they had to wake up. They had to have 2 or 3 more espressos to really wake up because they had to defend themselves, how to make their company better, how can they raise their share prices so that they don't get attacked by these activists, and then try to sell their assets, which they don't want to sell. So now what they're thinking is we do the defense advisor to help these companies to how to improve their so-called efficiency, how to improve their ROEs, and we take a lot of time. And of course, sometimes we have to sell their assets for them just to make sure that they can raise their shareholder value. And at the same time, you see this change in the past 3-4 years. Japanese CEOs, the board members, they started to get paid much, much higher. It really incentivizes a lot of staffs working under them. And there's also these compensation schemes where they pay shares, equities to their employees, let them feel like they're shareholders. So they try to make their companies better. And some cases, when there's bad things happening, escalation happens much quicker than before. So it changed significantly from the past old days where people, especially in the Japanese companies, they were lining up, they're queuing for the move up every year with their same class. And after 30 years, one of the 10 becomes more senior. But now there's an acceleration. And within the first 10 years, the good ones promote faster, they get paid much better, and they become shareholders to the company. So I think that's changed significantly. It will only continue for a while. So for the next 5-6 years, I'm very, very constructive with the help of all these changes, and especially with Prime Minister Takaichi also trying to stimulate the economy further. The only fear I have is we have to really spend at the right place, or else I think the global budget deficit this fiscal spending side. We only talk about it, but we have to be very disciplined there too in order to continue to grow in the right way.
Yeah, okay, so I'm hearing optimism from you too. After 30 years, 3 decades of slumber, Japan has woken up. It's ready for the world. It's really ready to take on economic expansion. So Yamada-san, finally to you, because you are the M&A man, so you know exactly where we are seeing so much activity here in Japan. So tell us a little bit about your perspective.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me such a so-called honorable event as a speaker, and also appreciate PIF investment in our fund as be a core investor. As Imatsu and also Rinoue-san already mentioned, but now, Japanese CEO mentality is a total change. So market is evolving right now. And actually, total number of M&A, volume of M&A compared with the last year, already 3.6 times. And the buyout activity also 4.1 times. So it's a historical track record number, but I don't think it's not a one-time phenomena. So it's a significant so-called corporate reform and also so-called restructuring of industry is taking place right now because of the long time, banks not provided on the finance liquidity, but also equity by cross shareholding. But it's already prohibited thanks to corporate governance code, stewardship codes. So now all of our CEOs is pay attention to market and try to seek growth and also profitability, and in order to compare with the global player. So I think it's a new phenomenon. It's a common sense in Western countries, but it's new for Japan. And so I think there are a bunch of great quality products, manufacturing company, or a great business model, but under-managed, under-resources. So once we so-called introduce risk money with global network, there's a significant opportunity. Japanese company can grow rapidly. So I am more opportunistic than Inoue-san. So I think it's next 10 years is right years for Japanese corporation.
Wonderful. I'm glad you're all in a competition on who's the most optimistic amongst you. That's great. Now I'm going to move on back to you, Your Highness, because obviously you talked about those partnerships earlier. You talked about the $11 billion that PIF has invested here in Japan, some of which is in Carlisle as well, we've just heard. So tell us a little bit about how these partnerships, how you aim to develop these partnerships with leading Asian financial institutions, how they can really unlock new cross-border investment opportunities as well that everyone's been talking about and that we've heard a little bit from the Prime Minister earlier as well.
Yeah. So I think if you look at PIF as an example of a sovereign investor, so sovereign investors, they come with a long-term view, with patient capital, ability to de-risk a lot of infrastructure, I would say, projects with that long-term view, partnering with institutional investors and also financial institutions where they come in with their structuring capabilities and also capital raising capabilities to enable those sovereign investors to invest at scale. This is a very important theme for the PIF. And I'm going to stick to the Japanese, obviously, example because Japan is a very important market for us. If you look at what PIF did in terms of partnerships, so I've mentioned the investments that we've had in Japan, and we did not only rely on the financial investments. Again, I mentioned the economic impact as well, but we've also went the extra mile to create partnerships. Last year, we've signed with 5 Japanese financial institutions, and I'm actually going to name each and every one of them: MUFG, SMBC, Mizuho, Nexi, and JABIC as well, where we've not only we're able to lock in, I would say, financing support, but also we're able to agree together on the key priority sectors and also the key instruments that we will collaborate in. The innovative, I would say, angle in terms of creating that financial innovations in the way that we look about, our investments. This is a very important theme that is also bringing that cross-border, I would say, collaboration. And I'll look at the other side of the asset or the capital market side, basically. So PIF actually anchored with Mizuho an ETF, which is the first ETF that is Saudi-linked, where it enables Japanese financial institutions and also investors to invest into the Saudi equity market as well. This is also unlocking that capital and cross-border enablement, I would say, between the two parties, and it's a very important theme for the PIF.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important, as you say. You need that cross-border investment. It's not just the investment's going one way, it's also the other way as well. And both these incredible markets, MENA, Asia as well, provide so many opportunities for investors everywhere. So it's so great to hear, and so great to hear that obviously many of those financial institutions, the Japanese financial institutions, are here with us in the audience, and it's great to see that PIF has supported them. So on to the rest of the panelists again. We know that we have heard how the Prime Minister is very focused on promoting investment opportunities as part of that effort to promote Japan as well as a leading asset management market. So how is Carlyle, Goldman, JP Morgan thinking about this opportunity, and what do you make of these government initiatives? You said you were cautiously, or you were optimistic, but do you think they're going to work? Are they going to drive more investment here?
You're asking me?
Yes. Okay. Well, all of you.
So I guess you were looking at me, so I guess I'll start off. We, of course, have asset management presence here, too. And I'm not saying I'm pessimistic. What I'm saying is I think we have to be very cautious. Right now, a lot of people misunderstand, and the retails especially tend to invest in equities rather than more balanced kind of portfolio. And of course, that's due to the interest rate level, which is low. So I should pass on to Imatsu later to ask him about when is the rates going higher. But of course, the curve is steep, but if people are all in equities, this just reminds me of the 1990s bubble collapse when Japanese equities market collapsed. And of course, interest rate back then was 10-year JGB was trading at 9.5%, so completely different level. Of course, leverage is different. Of course, valuation of the stock is different, so I'm not expecting a collapse. But I think it's much healthier if retailers can study a little bit more about investing in a more balanced fashion, because Japanese people, as you know, tend to live longer since they're very, very healthy. So I think it's
you.
So I think it's better to really understand what is so-called the balanced portfolio is. As for more of money coming in from abroad, it's a good thing because, as I said earlier, Japanese companies are trying to make themselves better. Stronger companies will be better and stronger and more global. And then, unfortunately, the weaker companies may not survive. But I think that divergence is very, very important because we had a lot of unperforming so-called weaker companies existing. I'd rather see them, whether it's consolidated or purchased by a stronger company or dissolve and then restart again. So then there's the revival. And that's when economy can do better and the companies can do better. And there's definitely shortage of labor. These people can go to bigger companies, stronger companies, and perform better. So I think that kind of shuffle, when it starts, I think it will be much, much better for Japan. I am not negative.
Excellent. And do the other gentlemen share this view?
Yes. Generally speaking, that initiative is very important. and very, good initiative because of, still, 11 trillion dollars cash in a bank account with a zero interest rate. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And but it's a benefit for maybe corporate, and they can get a cheap finance based on that deposit. But in the other hand, people, a depositor, lose money, lose wealth by putting money on the deposit accounts. So I think it's a very wise kind of initiative to provide the risk money to corporate and make a return to depositor and get a so-called wealth. And it's created a significant eco cycle. But education of kind of individual, so-called important. So Imatsu and also Dinoue and Steve has a huge responsibility to educate so-called depositor and maybe make a well balance of a portfolio. I think it's also another common sense in Western countries, but it's a new Japan. So educational is quite important. Another aspect is because of that's a cheap liquidity. There's a lot of so-called undermanaged companies there and can survive. So too many companies in the same industry create a significant competition and weaken each other and cannot compete with the global player. That's one of the issues. So once interest rate of corporate finance is maybe become kind of a so-called standardized or normal interest environments. I think maybe more consolidation going to be taking place, and that consolidation makes Japanese company is much better and can be a global player. So I think that's an initiative. Is quite important. Make a significant structural change on a Japanese corporate society.
Yeah, and structural change is what's really needed, isn't it? It's so interesting, as you say, there is so much wealth here, but they're sitting in people's bank accounts, essentially.
Yeah.
And in fact, we heard the Prime Minister talk about this as well. This is one of the wealthiest places on earth. But how do you make that money work for you? So again, I guess I'm looking at you, Matsu-san. It's your turn to respond.
So I just want to characterize this asset management reform.
Yeah.
Just simply, Japan is a country with status quo, right? And how we have been really seeing that stuff as observation. People don't really want to invest anything other than bank deposit, period, right? And that has been financing Japanese government bond over the course of time. So in this way, Japanese government has decided to open up and break up that status quo, or even opening up the Pandora box. So I just say this because that's a little bit contradictory. Just simply, rates continue to be kept as low because Japanese government has been having so much of debt, and interest rate cost matters a lot. So that's why they want to keep it lower. At the same time, they just want to move around the money. But money is, those depositors' money is very smart about where to go because they don't see much opportunities in the past, at least, in domestic market. That's why those money tend to go somewhere else. That's through NISA, that is Japanese version of investment savings account. So those money is just really creating, outflows, problems for Japan. And at the same time, rates kept low. So that's why, how can that money be attracted to stay in a domestic market? That's really a big challenge for Japan. So in this case, once the money starts moving around, in this way, more properly, JGB market, the rates market has to be a money parking place for even depositors or even some other offshore investors to pile or park some of the money at a reasonable and a logical level of the interest rate. At this moment, government, Bank of Japan, has been artificially lowering interest rate. That's really, really punitive. That's the way yen as a currency continue to be weakening. But that's not really making sense anymore because government, also even voters, including ourselves, household, start suffering from import price inflation. So in this way, just sounds like everything looks good, but we started seeing some side effect. So we should really want to see Prime Minister Takaichi-san to address those issues much more with a balanced approach going forward.
Fantastic. So what we're hearing here is that Japan is very much a country of the status quo. Nobody wants real change, but real change needs to happen. There needs to be structural change. I'm bringing in some of the earlier conversations we heard this morning. Of course, there are many Asias, and other parts of Asia are also incredibly competitive, incredibly hungry for investment, which then allows me to turn back to you, Your Highness. How is PIF obviously collaborating here with the Japanese institutions that we've heard about, but how are you collaborating with wider Asian financial institutions and investors to shape the markets and economy of tomorrow?
So PIF is collaborating with all regions and all markets globally because, again, we're an impactful global investor. And we see that collaboration across markets. So in the equity market, I've mentioned one example, which is with Japan, where we were able to attract actually Japanese investors into the Saudi stock market, but also on the debt side. So in terms of our capital raising activities, most of our capital raising activities are actually through international markets. And we've been issuing in different currencies, attracting different investors from Japan, from the wider Asia, and globally as well. And Saudi has been very, very attractive because it's a highly rated country. PIF is highly rated as well. We're AA2. Capped by the sovereign, which is AA3, a very strong financial position, very transparent, very strong governance as well. So there are a lot of opportunities as we're also shaping the sectors of the future, I would say, global economy as well.
Yeah, that's right. Fantastic to hear. And I guess we've got a couple more minutes left, but I do want to hear what you all make of the future, because I guess we started off this conference hearing about all of that global uncertainty, trade tariffs, trade wars, this need for more collaboration, but it's taking the form of bilateral relationships versus multilateral relationships. So within this environment that's so uncertain, and I'm so glad to hear that you're all optimistic. There's an optimism competition up here. So I want to hear about the future. Just how optimistic are you for the future of Japan, but also for the future of this new Asia that we're here to talk about at this summit? What do you foresee happening perhaps in the next 10 years? If I were to sit here with you again in 10 years, what will you be telling me? So let's start with Yamada-san.
Yes. First, tell about my industry. And, currently private equity is booming right now. But it's, just start for the booming. Because of, compared with the US markets, Japan PE market about 1/10 of the US market. And in terms of penetration of PE against the M&A, it's about half. So, from the so-called data, there's a significant white space. The second is significant succession opportunity. About so-called 2.6 million number of companies are family-owned, and about 50% of those doesn't have a successor. Significant succession opportunity. Delisted is now started because of Japan is the only country doubling the number of listed company in the last 20 years, while Western country is getting half. So it's a totally opposite phenomena. The third is also a corporate divestiture. And now we are discussing, lots of CEOs is thinking about portfolio construction and more seeking a growth. And also stocks, Tokyo Stock Exchange is reform, is a definite tailwind for us. So I think private equity and also number of GP is in Japan is about 100, while US is more than 2,100. So significant opportunity here. So I want to start my career from now on, but already spent 25 years, so maybe too late. But bright future for private equity. For Asia, I think Japan can be kind of center of Asia, but maybe we need to collaborate, develop a South Asia market. I think it's a huge potential market, and Japan need to take a leading role for this initiative. That's my sense.
Absolutely. And Southeast Asia as well, which is where I'm from, 700 million people. Rinoue-san.
So, as for Asia, I'm very, very bullish for next 10 years. India and, of course, South Asia, there's opportunities. As for Japan, as I pointed earlier, that there will be more consolidation within the stronger companies getting stronger, and then weaker companies going somewhere, which means all these stronger companies, I think, will do more global business. And what I'm worried then is that what kind of portion of the earnings will be from outside, and how much will it be from Japan? And if the proportion is much, much bigger, I will start to worry, because then do these companies have to stay in Japan? Do the board members have to be all Japanese? There's more and more non-Japanese board members in the global companies, whether it's Sony or whether it's Toyota, which means if their earnings outside, maybe 80% will be non-Japanese, then does the headquarters have to stay here? Do they have to remain here as being listed? Valuation is higher in the US. Will they delist here and go to US? You just don't know what's going to happen. So my only ask is that Takashi-san should really work very hard to make sure the Japanese companies do well within Japan. Of course, you'll have a lot of growth globally, but hopefully there's decent growth in Japan so that that's not happen. Yeah. But as overall Asia, I think we will remain strong, and Japan will be part of it, because, as I said, a lot of earnings will be outside Japan. But I'm just hoping that there will be decent growth in Japan domestically.
That's a great hope, and some good advice as well. And Imatsu-san.
Yeah, so I want to say something different, but pretty much echoed. The one thing that I can say is I want to start my career with PE now. But anyways, I like to say Japanese economy come to a point of no return. What I mean by this is just opening Pandora box of deposit is what I said. Same thing, everything just being really in a deflationary mindset for ages, couple decades. And nothing has been changing. But finally, Japan, all the nation, including leadership, try to change, and we have really moved to one direction. And that's just started. And one thing, that was surprisingly positive, to me is Prime Minister, female Prime Minister. First of all, this is the first, Takashi-san is the first female Prime Minister. I was underestimating how the impact would be. Once she came to speak, even to the parliament, any occasions, mood has changed completely. So in this way, we truly, really support what she tried to do. And that's the way we should really, go with it. So, at the same time, lastly, I want to say, Japan is a country who's been really suffering and experiencing all demographics issues. In Asia, like Korea, China, all the other places, production labor is going down. Like even birth rate in Korea, 0.8. 2010, in that time, more like 1.67. China, the same thing, 1.67 to below 1. Japan, only 1.3 to 1.2. So still just held up there. And we know how to get over it. At the same time, AI should be really, complementary to labor shortage issue. So in this way, nothing can be making me negative, much more, optimistic about the future. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. And Your Highness, you have the last word. Are you optimistic about the future? Next year
Absolutely.
and 10 years from now.
Absolutely. I mean, we're already talking about our 15-year plan, which I believe also His Excellency mentioned, which is all about the future, all about the future generation. We're very optimistic about, obviously, the Saudi economy, the region, and also about Japan as a key partner to us as well.
Yeah, great final words to end it on. Please give a big round of applause to my amazing panelists. It was such an interesting conversation. And yeah, we'll talk a lot about it throughout the day. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
For all
Thank you
of
very much.
Thank you. Yes.